Today I think is going to be a really fun topic. We'll be talking about managing up, so how to convince higher ups, including your boss, to invest more money or talent in IT. And I think learning how to manage up is an important piece of the puzzle in kind of getting that buy-in from executives or manager, things like that. But if you are new to the IT Leadership Lab, if this is your first stream, welcome in. This is a community that is dedicated to IT leaders. It's a place for you to share content. You can learn from your peers, people that have actually been IT leaders before or are currently IT leaders, and kind of build your network of fellow IT leaders and learn from everybody. So we host bi-monthly webinars to discuss different IT leadership topics, and then we actually bring on leaders within the space that can share their expertise. So I'm going to go ahead and have both of our speakers introduce themselves. We do have a new face here, which I'm really excited about. So Clark, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your journey in IT.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Clark Sandlin. I own a managed service provider in Dallas, Texas called Zerka. We've been in business for 21 years now. My career spans from the early 80s when my mother bought me a Commodore 64. My father was a programmer at NASA. So it's in the blood. IT was all around technology. And, my first real job was at the college IT campus computer lab. And from there, worked help desk quite a few places. And then I landed in Dallas, a huge hockey fan because I had a bunch of Russian roommates. And I wanted to go to work for the Dallas Stars, but I ended up working for the owner of Hicks Muse Tate and First, owned Dallas Stars, Texas Rangers, Liverpool Reds. And then from there, they approached me and asked me to create my own company, which I did. And they all went off in different directions. I still support most of those today. So we focus on private equity, family offices, and hedge funds.
Sweet. Well, that's really, really cool. It sounds like
trying to sum it all up.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to sum up like a full career in a couple minutes, but yeah, that's an awesome start into IT. Nate, how about you? I know that everyone probably knows you by now, but anybody that might not.
Yes. So much like Clark, I didn't start that early, but I did have a Commodore 64. So
Nice.
Always love to hear that someone else out there did the same. I started almost 30 years ago in IT. Every step of the way, I never believed I could actually do the job. From the very first entry-level position, which was just installing or upgrading hard drives and memory. For a law firm, we did about 700 plus computers. From help desk to systems administration, desktop support, IT manager, IT director, and every step I was thinking, okay, there's no way I can handle this. There's no way I can handle this. But somehow I survived and it worked out. So I own a small MSP, offices in San Francisco Bay Area, also in Houston. But most of my time now is spent, as I say, talking, writing, and coaching IT leaders around how to have these types of conversations with senior leadership. And really, it's just all about those painful lessons that I learned. And I'm just hoping that I can help people avoid them and make their path a little bit smoother.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I dropped the link to your website in the chat,
awesome.
but there's a lot of really good resources and everything on there. So today we're talking about managing up and what that actually means to IT leaders. So the first question I have for y'all is, what does managing up really mean in the context of IT leadership? Who are you trying to influence? Who are you trying to manage? And what does that look like?
Clark, you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, sure. So, throughout my career path, I've been in so many different positions, help desk, management position. Of course, now I'm an owner, so I kind of have a broad spectrum of everything. And I would answer that question from multiple, positions, I guess. When I was at the help desk, managing up to me meant addressing problems, obviously, and bringing problems to the attention of my manager. But then also seeking, knowing that there's a target audience above that. So, my big thing is always bring a problem, but also have a solution ready to go, because it's really easy to find problems and to point out issues and but the extra mile is having the answer, having a solution, having a direction. And, for me, that's like in every position. So even from my position, I look to have someone bring problems to me and then also have solutions for them as well. I love talking through problems anyway. I'm a different kind of guy, but as far as that goes, but most managers want to hear a solution along with the problem. I think that's the easiest way to answer that question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. I call them, they're called feedback loops, right? And I think the focus is really on loop, right? So we tend to think about the manager or our boss communicating to us, and then we go and we do whatever they ask. And maybe that's senior leadership, depending on your role. But there has to be this loop of communication that goes up and back. And I think establishing that in a cadence is very important, right? So if you think about how dynamic IT and business is, like the tighter those loops are, the quicker information is traveling, the quicker I can respond and adapt to it. So I think it all starts with improving that communication. In some ways, like the managing up, I think is a bit of a misnomer, right? Because we think, we have to do something special or try to control in some way, manage them. But really what we're trying to do is position ourselves to sort of understand what they need from us, help them understand what we need from them, and just make it a better system all around within the department.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think so. I listened to some of the. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned like the imposter syndrome. I think I missed that webinar, but really good concept, right? Because like when I first originally started bringing things, and us IT people, I mean, it's when we first enter our career, it's kind of like, I don't know about you all, but I was very reticent. I was very kind of like quiet and shy, and really didn't want to rock the boat and I think the biggest thing is just overcoming that fear and just jumping out there and, hey, I found a problem. I have a solution, and get after it. But that's, getting over that fear and then realizing that a lot of the other people on your staff they're just as afraid to bring, to have that conversation with management and then even C-level, But once you do, you realize, you just take that leap of faith and you realize, oh man, these are just real people, just like everybody else. They're not something special. I'm not entering Valhalla or anything.
Yes.
And you can have really good conversations with them. And from the CEO perspective now, it's very lonely at the top. They say that it's true, because nobody wants to approach you and nobody wants to, say anything that could, ruin their career or jeopardize their career, or I'm going to get fired if I say the wrong thing. No, it doesn't work that way. We welcome conversation, and ideas and bringing up problems. Even if you don't have a solution ready at hand, bringing up a problem and saying, listen, I'm trying to figure out how to address this issue. Can you give me some insight? Because I know you have a lot of experience because you're old. Maybe not add that part, but
You're not old.
Yeah, I kind of on that topic, you know, you might be a CEO like you who is open to hearing and listening to feedback. What happens when you encounter executives or your manager or people that are resistant
Yeah.
to that feedback? How do you kind of approach those folks? Because not everyone is going to be as open-minded and open to feedback.
Yeah. I mean, switch jobs. I don't know. I mean, I know that's not the right answer, but I mean, it's, I think like just working with other CEOs and working with CIOs and things like that, everybody has a way to get into their good graces, and everybody works differently. You're going to deal with egos from time to time. You just kind of have to know who your target demographic is, and once you get to know them, then you kind of know what feedback they're looking for. If they're not open to feedback, typically it's the ego kind of thing, and it's a power thing. So you can approach it from that perspective. I really don't think that's the best way. I think though, if you make them look good and you're bringing a problem and a solution so that they can look good to even their higher ups or to their company, or you're making you're reducing costs or helping them with expenses, they're going to love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Again, focusing on the solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that I like the idea of finding another job. Yeah. But before you do that,
right.
So, and I've said this before, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but some things are so important that you repeat them. So the things that you hear me say over and over, I say that because they're that important. Okay? What's important is to understand that people act in their own self-interest. So I don't want to hear feedback if I don't understand how it matters to me. So, and I think Clark hit on this. He said, you have to understand your audience. The CEO cares about something. The COO cares about something different. The CIO, right? I need to understand what they care about. Once I understand what they care about, then I take whatever feedback and I attach it, right, to something that they care about. Now they're open to hearing what I have to say because they understand that this impacts something that they care about. And once they understand that, it feels less like feedback or criticism and feels more like I'm here to help you achieve something that's very meaningful to you. Help me help you. And it sort of changes the dynamic. And then, of course, if that doesn't work, tighten up your resume and find another place. But
I think that's what separates good leaders from bad leaders. I always tell my team, you can criticize, you can come with problems all you want. I don't look at things like that. I just kind of separate my ego from everything else. I've had employees come up to me and say, "What are you thinking? This is the most ridiculous." I'm like, "Well, yeah, maybe you're right." And then let's explore it. So if you have that kind of open dialogue and you have to test the waters. You have to see, okay, will they respond positively to this kind of critique or bringing these issues? And then, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore if, it didn't go well. But we use Culture Index, which is, if anybody's seen Moneyball, it's basically the same concept, and we hire based on that. And it's just a great way to kind of get to know how everybody communicates, because even your staff, when you're managing down, I hate saying managing down, but managing across maybe, but you have to know their communication style as well. So it's not just, hey, is this a CFO? Oh, he's a numbers guy, I have to bring numbers to this guy. It's also, how do they communicate? Do they prefer email? Do they prefer a conversation? Do they prefer to be on the phone or text or Teams or whatever? because some people just don't like to be bothered. They just prefer email, and you kind of figure that out as you go along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also had a question about, let's say you do have executives that are open to your criticism, but they do have pushback or disagreement with you about what you are proposing. How do you kind of handle that pushback and try to come to a point where you're both satisfied with the outcome? What might that conversation look like?
So I think from my perspective, and then others that I've spoken to in my CEO groups, we are pretty, numbers driven, data driven, fact driven. And if you back everything up with facts, numbers, so on and so forth, there's not going to be much of an argument there. It's just most C-level people are open-minded to the extent of, hey, I have to be open-minded to grow my business and to, improve, how we operate. If you can't talk on that level with a C-level person, you're definitely in the wrong place. If you can't bring them, here's my facts, here's my proof, here's what we need to address, and if they just turn you away and say no, that's a stupid idea or whatever, you're in the wrong place. But everybody has a communication style, and everybody has a way they want to receive data, and like some want pie charts that they think that's the best way to handle it, the Excel spreadsheet, whatever. You also have to come to them in their media, whatever media they prefer. So, and if you've done all of those things that you've seen are successful, that other employees have done, or that other C-level managers work, like a CFO goes to a CEO, you can, monitor their behavior and see, okay, how does he present? How does she present? How does she converse? And then you find those successful people and typically follow with what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's very important to understand what you're trying to achieve, because the conversation has to center all around what are we trying to achieve. And at that point, the pushback is, you have to understand, what are we pushing back against? And again, I'm sort of repeating myself, but we don't want to be caught in the middle, because we are not the CEO. Right? Our job is to gather the facts as best we can, understand what we're trying to achieve as an organization, understand what our role is in supporting that goal, and then make our recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what happens if we do it this way. Here's what happens if we don't do it that way. Here's what it costs if we do it this way. Here's what it could cost if we fail to do that. And then step back and let them make the decision. And then that's what it is. But that is our role. Is I see it really as being an advisor. Mm-hmm. We are not necessarily the decision maker as we're managing up, but our role is to be a strategic advisor. And we do that by laying out the case, not because I have such expertise in technology, but based upon what we're trying to achieve as an organization, what you're going to ask us to contribute to that. We need these tools, or the system, what have you, and let them make the call. That's really what their job is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you feel like there is, because I know, Clark, you mentioned that you kind of understand how people like to be managed or how people like to be communicated with. Do y'all feel like there is a difference between the different job types and the way that you communicate these things, or is it really just a personality thing? So is the CIO going to interpret things different from the CFO or the CEO, and or even like an IT director, if you have an IT manager that's underneath an IT director? Do those job titles influence that communication?
Yes.
I would definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think of like IT. let's just, I mean, because that's what we're talking about here, right? IT, people get into IT for all kinds of reasons, all kinds of hobbies. You know, oh, I specialize in cybersecurity. I specialize in network infrastructure. There's so many different areas you can go into, but the common denominator for everybody in IT is service. I mean, we are all here we're very service oriented people. And if you have a CIO, you know, you have to look at your CIO and see where did they come from? Because I've worked for CIOs who had no IT experience and they're more kind of salesy. So then you're like, okay, I don't relate to that because I'm in service. I'm a service oriented person. I relate to my fellow geeks. This guy had, you know, maybe studied college, you know, went to college and got an IT degree, but didn't really have the experience and didn't cut his teeth on Commodore 64 like Nate and I, you know. So there may be such a disparity there that, you know, this guy's all into sports and, you know, something completely different, but you have to figure that out. But if it's a CIO who grew up through the ranks, then hey, that's your man right there, or woman right there. You know, you can talk to them. They understand your heart and where your nature, you know, where you are. They understand your troubles, your travails, everything. Like I said, I worked from a help desk all the way up, so I've been in every possible position, and that's really kind of the best way to go about it, I think, in that. How you can become relatable to your team. Because I know everybody on my team, what they're dealing with, the hassles they're dealing with, the personalities they're dealing with, and I can relate. So the other way is figure out who that person is. And, you know, for CIOs that I worked with that didn't have the tech experience, I would go to them and help them. You know, I would be kind of their go-to to connect to the team and to help them communicate with the team. And hey, here's some things we need to start doing with this team to get them engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's there's an expression like when in Rome, right?
Yeah.
So you know, C-suite is not C-suite, is C-suite. Just like we have a role, you know, help desk is not systems admin, is not IT director. We have a role to play. We are a team. And so if I'm talking to a CEO, that CEO probably cares a lot more about growth than they do operations. And it's not to say there's not overlap, but that's their job, is to grow stakeholder value, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak in the language of growth. Same subject, but I'm going to frame it in a growth frame. If I'm talking to a CFO who probably cares more about how much does it cost, what are the risks, I'm going to speak about the same subject, but I'm going to frame it around risk, cost, right? And if it's a COO, same difference. You know, how does this help us keep the lights on type of thing? So it's the same subject, but you have to understand, again, people act in their own self-interest. What are they responsible for? What do they care about? What is their role? And then you speak to them in the language that resonates with them. They're not trying to give you a hard time. They, you know, if I speak Spanish, you know, if my English isn't that good, I prefer you to speak to me in Spanish. Right? I'm not saying one is better than the other. I just understand you better when you speak my language. So understand the roles, what their responsibilities are, and then say exactly what you have to say in their language. And that I found, this is one of those hard-earned lessons, right? So please take that lesson to heart and use it. Just understand who you're talking to, not from they're in a higher role, but they have a lot on their shoulders and they have people asking them for things outside of technology as well.
Yeah.
So.
Sure. And then, you know, that made me think of one other thing is like, always look for their weaknesses. Like if you're a manager or you're, you know, a C-level, find out where their weaknesses are and see if you can augment that or support that or help them with that weakness. Because, you know, going back to the culture index thing is what we use. It's all about finding like, okay, here's where you're weak. Here's where you're very strong, and hiring somebody to the weakness of that person's where this person is weak, but they may have strengths somewhere else. So you create a team that fills all the gaps that you need. The same with the C level or the management level. Find out what their weaknesses are and help them with that. You don't even ask questions. You just do it, and then you'll find that they're gravitating to you immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are some common mistakes that you feel IT leaders make whenever they are communicating or managing up?
Well, of course, none of our IT leaders do this, so I'm only speaking for myself. Talking in technology terms, not taking a moment to sit in their chair and understand how they see the world and why. So I mentioned something a few minutes ago, and I said, the CFO, it's not just IT. I totally forgot. Wow, well, HR and legal and manufacturing and sales and marketing, and everybody's coming to this one person with several asks. But somehow I think my ask is just way more important. So to me, the best thing is sometimes just regular conversations with somebody. What's it like? Tell me about being a CFO. What's some of your biggest challenges? And then you'll start to see how you can speak to them, how you can help them, which helps you, of course, because it's helping you how to present and make your case for whatever it is that you're trying to do within IT. So that would be, I know you guys already do that, but in case someone hears this recording later who's not doing that, that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I mean, it's a very good example, Nate. I mean, questions are the most important thing. I mean, there's really no stupid question, and get over the fear, get over the imposter syndrome, all that stuff. Just ask. And then typically when you're talking to a manager, they'll give you like, this is how I like to be presented to. This is the information I like to see. So just listen, as well as, ask your questions like Socrates, right, would. But, as far as like anything that's, that would be, I'm sorry, what was the question again?
It was just like, what are some mistakes that IT leaders might make whenever they're...
Yeah, and I agree with Nate, bringing something way too technical for a non-technical audience. But again, that's knowing your audience, right? So some mistakes are also, going back to the first question, which is, bringing up problems and not bringing a solution. Or not even having thought about it or thought through it and saying, hey, I've got a problem here. This is kind of what I'm thinking. This is kind of where I think I should go. What do you think? And then that you get them to open up. So the goal is to get them to start talking, right? Because then you start hearing their goals. You start hearing what they want, how they want to be presented to. And then you introduce that concept with them, and then they'll say, well, if you put together a PowerPoint presentation, or if you put together an Excel spreadsheet, how they're telling you how they want to be communicated to, then you go back and do that and then come back. So it's kind of like this Socratic dialogue, and you develop, your synthesis at the, I'm mixing Hegel and Socrates, but anyway,
I like it.
Same kind of concept, but you come to a resolution, and then you come back and you deliver the full communication, the full plan in the way that they want to see it, with their goals, where they're, what they're looking for at the end of that. But too many times I see people just kind of miss the mark from jumping in too early with a, hey, here's a solution, instead of kind of dialoguing it through.
Yep.
Yeah. And how would an IT leader communicate with a non-technical audience? What are some ways that they can take a technical issue that is pretty complex and make it for somebody that maybe I could understand it, because I am not technical.
Analogies are the best. I mean, the car one is a tired one that we all use in IT, but it does work. It's something that everybody can relate to. Again, know your target audience. Like if whoever you're reporting to, whether it's a manager or a C-level or whatever, find out what they like. Let's say this guy likes sports, or this lady likes crafting or something, or cars, even whatever. Find out what their hobbies are and then address it from that analogy. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's how I learned IT. Literally, it was taught to me from a friend of mine when I didn't think I could understand it, or it was beyond me. I won't go into his metaphor, but it worked. It really helped me understand operating systems and files. If anyone listens to anything I always talk about nature. That's my metaphor, right? And if forests and rivers and all of these things, animals, because it's something that we all connect to. So I'm always going to try to explain a concept to you using something that you already understand. Because even in IT, it's an underlying principle, right? Just like with law or any discipline, we can all understand law. What we can't understand is all of those long, Latin words, okay? But if I just said a legal principle to you, and I used a metaphor, like Clark was saying, and you're a crafts person, and I told you the principle within the context of crafting, then all of a sudden you understand the legal principle. So I just think in communication in general, metaphors, analogies, allegories, parables, whatever you want to call them, those are incredibly powerful, and they give that person ownership. And what I mean by that is when you walk away, that person still holds that principle. And when that problem returns, they can solve it on their own. And they like you, not because you answered it, but because you empowered them to answer it on their own moving forward. That's a huge thing. I agree with you, Clark, 100%. That is the way to go.
Yeah. And if I were reporting to Nate, I would be looking at his bookshelf, what he reads. And, if he likes nature, I'm going to go read a book on biomimicry or something, or, how nature imitates technology or vice versa. I'd look at maybe samurais. I don't know. You kind of, all the indications are there in your environment, right? So you take that and go, oh, I don't know anything about this, but I'm going to go read a book on it. And then I'm going to come back and say, hey, I've been really interested in this, in samurais lately. So, I watched Seven Samurai, or, whatever, you just kind of look at their environment first. And, I hate, it seems kind of manipulative or nasty, but it's not. You're trying to connect with somebody, and you genuinely want to connect on their level. And if you take an interest in something that they're interested in, you might find that, wow, I'm really interested in it too, and I want to learn more. And that's how you connect on that personal level as well as the professional level.
But to your point, it's not manipulative. And I'm going to use an analogy to make my point. If you were going on vacation to France and you studied French for a few weeks, you weren't studying French to be manipulative of the French people. You were studying French so that you could communicate in their preferred language. So all you're doing by paying attention and getting a sense of what they're into, what they like, what they understand, and reading that book, you're just studying their language so that you could communicate in their preferred language. Because the most important thing, the outcome that you want, is to be understood. I don't need to be the smartest person. I'm not trying to convince you. But here's what I do want to know. When you say no or you say yes, I want to make sure that you understand what you're saying yes or no to. And I can't do that if I can't communicate effectively in your language. So if you say, no, Nate, we're not going with that, push back on that. I want you to understand what you're saying no to, not just the project, right? But the whole ripple effect of us not doing that project. So I don't see it as manipulative. I think it's what every leader should do. It, to me, is what makes you a very powerful, effective leader, is when you take that little extra step. And I think people appreciate that, and they don't feel manipulated. You took an interest in something that they're interested in. You took an extra step to make sure that they understood, to connect with them. Very, very powerful way to build relationships.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Nate. And, you know, but the reason I threw that out there is because I've worked in a lot of toxic environments before, and your peers are kind of looking at it this way. And that's the other thing. You have to get out of that mindset. You know, some help desk, you know, they're just miserable. You know, some of the people that I've worked with were just negative, toxic, so on and so forth. And they have, oh, you're just a brown noser, or, you know, whatever. And if you can separate yourself in that environment and shine, yeah, okay, you know, you have to tune that out. You have to learn to tune out all that noise and all the negativity and rise above it. And that's what's going to make you shine for sure.
Yes.
I wanted to cover a little bit about maybe an actual situation where you were able to manage up and it helped you secure resources or support for a specific project. So maybe it was, you know, when you were an IT manager or something like that. Were there any specific points in time where you were able to successfully manage up? And would y'all be able to share that example?
Yes. Almost everything that you hear me talk about when we talk about the budgeting and how to get your budget approved and all of these things literally came in part. I'll talk about the very positive experience. I don't need to, after Clark's saying the negative people at help desk, I don't want to be one of those. But a positive experience with a particular CFO. Shout out to Tony Ma, who was fantastic. He pushed me. He taught me, and that's where I understood and made that leap from being the IT director to a strategic advisor. He helped me understand what he needed, and Clark, I think, picked up on this as well, not just message-wise, but also kind of borrowing from TCP/IP, the transport, right, vehicle as well, right? So the message and then how you deliver that particular message is very important. And we would have these. He used to love to talk. I'll just say that. And you know, I'm ready to get out of there at 6 o'clock, and I'm in his office, and he's just waxing on about everything. But he was really sharing and taking his time to help me understand how to be a better leader and how to communicate more effectively with C-suite. That to me was the greatest one about my lesson in learning how to manage up. And I think Clark mentioned this earlier when he was saying, these are just people. Mm-hmm. They're not, you know, forgive me, they're not special superhumans. They're just regular people, right? They have hobbies, they have likes, they have dislikes. They you know, they're like us. And he helped me see that. And so when you get that in terms of managing up, he helped me see like, oh yeah, you have a boss that reports, oh, I see. Yeah, you can't walk into the board of directors with what I just gave you. Oh, I understand. So again, I'll start or end where I started. Feedback loops, having conversations. They don't have to always be formal, right? But that cadence needs to be there. And that's how you're going to learn. And then hopefully you're going to respond and adapt to that. And that's how you grow as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think to add to that a little bit is, from my perspective, is, you know, going back to the it's lonely at the top kind of thing. It really is. But, you know, when you get to be much older with so much more experience, maybe not 100% wiser, but, you know, you want to give back. You hit that generativity spot where, hey, I want to be a mentor. I want to show the, you know, people how to do this. I want to show my team how to do this and help them grow in their career. Most of your managers, most of your C-level people who have a lot of experience behind them, they are at that same stage. You just have to remember that they've had their parents, they've mentored their children, and now they're looking for somebody in the workplace that
Yes.
they can mentor and share and help them grow in their career and maybe replace them one day. I mean, I'm kind of looking for that myself. I'm like, I don't want to do this forever. At some point, I want to pass the baton, and there's always that opportunity. So if you approach everything with that mindset, and you realize that, well, they want to be a mentor just as much as I want to learn. Again, they will give you all the tools. They will tell you how to do it, show you how to do it, ask questions all you can, get over that fear. You are, not any different. We're all humans here. Yes, they may have more experience, but so what? They want to share that experience with you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that that's something that we forget, especially if we are, like, I'm an individual contributor. It's easy for me to forget, every layer above me. They are just people, and they do have things that they do love, specific hobbies. And honestly, I feel lucky that I do know my leadership at that level. And I think that really, really helps kind of build those relationships. And it makes it a lot easier if I say, hey, I actually need this, or I need help with this. Definitely having that relationship makes things a lot easier. And then, it wouldn't be IT if there weren't some sort of crisis situation, if there's an outage, a data breach, some sort of cybersecurity incident, things like that. How do you kind of communicate those with higher ups without feeling like alarmist or stressed, and kind of being able to communicate that without panicking, I guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nate. I was just trying to clarify the question. So, and you're talking about speaking to your manager as far
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, if
you got
maybe
breached.
yeah, like you are the IT director and something has happened and now you need to go to the CEO, and how do you kind of walk that line?
Yeah, so I've been in the hot seat many, many times like that, and I learned, the hard way. Like the first time I was very alarmist and just, here's the problem, we got breached, this happened, and then well, so what are we doing about it? Oh, I don't know. Hold on. Don't obviously come with a solution, right? Or at least a path, because they're going to be reporting somewhere else, right? If they're not the owner of their company, but if they're, well, actually, even if you're the owner of a company, you're reporting to your clients, right? So, or whoever, you're always reporting to somebody somewhere. So they just, if it's management, they're going to have to report up to, up the chain of command. So they need to have a path, a solution, how long it's going to take. Even ballparks help, say, I quickly learned I've got to come with this information real fast. On the help desk, you kind of just get into the mindset of, oh, I got to escalate or pass this up. But, at least say, it's like when you engage your senior techs, they want to know that you tried before they're going to mentor you, right? They want to know that you've tried all the things they've showed you how to do. It's the same with management. You have to be able to meet them halfway and bring them what they need to pass on up the chain. So come with a solution, or at least a path.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I would add something. If you're on this call right now, or you're listening to a recording of this call, the time to design, to build the plan that Clark just described is right now. The time to come up with a plan is not in the moment when the crisis happens. So you want to lose confidence? Have a crisis and have no plan. You're making it up as you go because they know you are. So here's the difference. Imagine a football team or something going on onto the field, and we don't have a playbook. Their defense is doing this, and we don't know what to do. Now, the time to come up with the playbook is before the game. So right now, today, I mean, literally, when you get off the call, Google, do AI, I don't care, whatever you have to do, but you need to have a plan that says, in a disaster, in a disruption, step one, who do we call? Here is a templated email sequence that we send out. We're not writing the emails cold. They're already written. We're filling in the blanks, right? What is the problem? Fill in the blank. When do we think this is going to be fixed? Like Clark said, what's our timeline? Even if it's just a kind of a guess, it's in here. We will update you. All of the tools that you're going to need to respond effectively to a crisis, you need to have them built before the crisis. Otherwise, good luck. I do not have an answer for you if you don't have it ahead of time. So if you're listening to this, there's no excuse. Like Clark said, you have to have a plan. That's what gives them confidence, because most of these C-level people, they know there's problems. They know stuff is going to happen. They've been through it before. Now, how do you respond? Right? So if I go to the CEO, I sit down in front of the leadership committee and I'm saying, here's our plan, and I can hand out a copy of how we process this. They don't like it any better, but boy, oh boy, they feel confident. And nothing is going to help your leadership more how you respond when things go wrong. And this person had a plan, and they communicated that plan. They kept us in the loop, and they did not wait till the last minute to try to figure it out. Those two things, if you hear this, do that now. I'm not going to share the story, but I'm telling you from my personal experience, you do not want to wing this because you were too busy fighting fire. They don't care about that. They will not care why you don't have the plan. There is no excuse that will cover your rear end.
Absolutely. And I always think about the phrase, there's no more permanent solution than a temporary Band-Aid. I mean, we're in IT. That's what happens. I mean, and that's like you when you said that, it kind of made me think of, oh, well, yeah, this is the time to do this project. Even though it's a fire, it's a breach or whatever, this isn't the time to fix it. Let's just all stop and fix.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think those are all the questions that I had, but I did want to see if y'all had any last minute thoughts, anything I may not have covered, any tips for people that are working on this specific skill.
Well, they're human, right? Number one, communication. And if it's okay, sometimes your boss isn't always the best leader. Right? They may have been hired because they're just really super technical, or they're really good at something else, or they're somebody's brother-in-law. I don't know, but they have the role, okay? And you're reporting into them. But you want communication. I think Clark made this very clear when he talked about understanding their style, how they want data presented, and those things. But you have to understand what's important to them. Each person that you're speaking with, and I break it down, kind of took this a little bit from Gartner, and I break it down into operations, growth, risk, and customer experience. And when I go in for the first time, I need to understand how important each of those things are to you. Where are we right now in the next year, 2 or 3? Are we really focusing on sort of stabilizing operations? Or are we pushing gangbusters to grow over the next 1 to 3 years? That helps me understand how to prioritize resources. And then when I sort of get a pushback, which I think was one of the earlier questions, I then respond in that feedback loop with, when we spoke earlier, we said that this was our priority. Has that changed? And if it has, that's totally fine. If it hasn't, that's why I'm suggesting this. So I can't overemphasize the importance of really understanding what's important to senior leadership and how important it is to them. And that was a different broadcast, but you have to quantify it. Super important, really important, that doesn't help me. Scale of 1 to 5, how important it is, that's helpful, right? So And then it's easier to do your job because really you're drafting behind them. That's your role, right? If they go left, you go left. If they go right, you go right. It's not your job to, like hold one side of the steering wheel with them. So just, remember that and have conversations. It's just super, super helpful. Makes your job a lot easier.
Yeah, agree 100% with that. And, again, I would just like to reiterate, find their weakness and help them with that weakness. And Nate, you mentioned like, hey, they could be a brother or whatever. A lot of times management, yes, it's unfortunate. It's because they trust them. They bring them in. They know that they're going to be honest and transparent and all this other stuff, whatever. But they all have weaknesses, and you can find that. Don't go up and tell them you suck at this, but just fill in that gap for them. And they may not be able to be good with Excel spreadsheets, but guess what? You're the Excel spreadsheet pro, or whatever. You're going to fill that gap for them. And then I would also, hearkening back to the imposter syndrome for Tim, but some of the management people are the same way. They feel like imposters too, and that's why some of them put on airs or they're condescending or whatever. They're trying to cover.
Yes.
So if you do find that weakness and instead just approach it from a helpful perspective and fill in that gap for them, they are going to hang on to you. You're going to be their right hand person.
Yes.
They are going to turn to you for solutions. They're going to turn to you for answers. You're going to be the first person they come to, and especially adding in the Socratic questions and looking for mentorship and guidance from them as well.
Yes.
That's going to make them feel good about themselves. Everybody's going to feel happy in that scenario.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I think that's it. I think these are really, really good things that we can take away from this. And I'll have the recording posted up later today with obviously the recording and then some of the key takeaways from this session. But really appreciate having y'all on today. Clark, it was great to have you on for the first time. I hope we can get you onto more of these.
Thanks for having me. I love doing these kind of things because, again, I love giving back. I love mentoring and sharing and helping other people find their way.
I
love doing this kind of stuff. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited to have you on more of them. Nate, thank you so much for being on, as always. Really appreciate all of your insight. We will be back in a couple of weeks. We'll be talking about, what we'll be talking about. Oh, making a case for head. So maybe some of these kinds of, maybe some of these discussions will also come in handy during those talks as well, and how you can make a case for headcount. But in the meantime, again, thank y'all for joining today. People that were able to watch, anybody in the recording, thank you for joining. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to pop them in the lab, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of people that are eager to help. So, but yeah, take care. Have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye, y'all.
Bye.